Listen, man, during the ball drop, during the lottery drop, Cleveland got the #1 pick. I just don't think that was.
What a coincidence!
Don't you think?
Wemby with the Spurs.
Oh my God! Let's keep LeBron home. You know what? Patrick Ewing to the Knicks. Derrick Rose to the Bulls. But I understand the assignment, guys. I had to make sure that I had to do my part.
The big winner of the NBA draft lottery, the Cleveland Cavaliers. As it came down to the final pick, Russ Granick, the deputy commissioner, pulled out the Cleveland Cavaliers card. And what a man, Gordon Gunn, visually impaired. The owner of this team, he's given so much to the Cleveland area over the year, and there he holds the LeBron James jersey. They've made it very clear that the high school phenom from 40 miles down the road in Akron would be their #1 pick, and LeBron James joins us live from Akron, Ohio. Did you want Cleveland to have the #1 pick, thus you could stay home, LeBron?
Yeah, I think it's going to be great for me. Also for my family that they ain't got to travel across the country to come watch me play. And, growing up, watching the Cavs was great, because it was during the Jordan era. And I think it's going to be great to get to know some teammates, and hopefully we can get better.
LeBron, you're not even in the league yet. You haven't had high school graduation. You're handling the segue for the TV guy. Good job. Carmelo Anthony is in his home in Baltimore, and Carmelo Anthony is going to join us on a three-way here as we speak to him. Carmelo, your reaction to what's going on with LeBron, his opportunity to stay at home there in Ohio?
Well, I'm just saying I understand that the Cleveland Cavaliers got the #1 pick, so I'm assuming that they're going to take him, but we going to see on June 26th.
Carmelo, do you and LeBron speak tonight after the lottery was done?
Yeah, I talked to him while the lottery was going on, and I kind of knew that Cleveland was going to get the #1 pick, so I think they rigged it. No, don't quote me on that, though, man. I think they rigged it. No, don't quote me on that, though, man.
I think they rigged it. No, don't quote me on that, though, man.
I truly believe that there's this sense of power and beauty when you're able to tell your own story or able to share your own story with others, opposed to having someone else tell your story, and the person who's telling your story wasn't actually there, or they don't have close ties to those involved, because it would just appear as just speculation, accusations, and hearsay. That way it doesn't come off as someone being a conspiracy theorist or someone is fabricating and spreading some lies of some sort, because you're so-called hating in a sense, feeling that someone has an ulterior motive to maliciously defame someone because of this so-called bias that you have for your favorite player. For example, in my case, me being a Kobe fan, they'll try to use that against me in an argument and say, hey, you just saying that because you're a huge Kobe fan and you hate LeBron James. Well, in this case, LeBron James validates my theory and gives credence to the countless and series of videos that I have done on this channel, where I've had credible sports anchors putting the truth in plain sight about how LeBron James' career was rigged and scripted since the beginning of time. Now see, if you go down my archives and my videos, I have thousands of videos exposing LeBron James' career for being rigged. But now that LeBron James has himself admitted that his career is rigged, it gives these videos moving forward far more meaning. It's been pretty great to see LeBron James agreeing, being on the same page, and admitting that he believes or knows that even his own career was rigged. But I do believe LeBron James intentionally revealed his script to the masses because the higher ups told him to, because they're basically gradually letting the cat out of the bag and saying, hey, this entire world is scripted and rigged. But sometimes it's just better to leave things unsaid, because now it embarrasses your fan base and put their foot in their own mouths, because they ran with this theory that I debunked plenty of times, where they would say, hey, if the RBA was rigged, don't you think the Knicks, which is one of the biggest markets in the world, will get the first pick in the draft every year? Same talking point every single time you mention that the RBA draft could be rigged. Right? Don't you think the Knicks will get the first round pick in the draft every year so that it increases their revenue? But my response has always been the same. Well, you big dummy, in my Fred Sanford voice. Don't you think it would be obvious that the RBA was rigged if they gave the Knicks and other big market teams the first round pick every single year? I mean, why would a fan even attend a game or watch it on television if they know it's already rigged? How would these arenas pay their employees if no fans pay for tickets? Because they already know the RBA is rigged. Don't you think the TV revenue would decline? They wouldn't make no money because people would know that it's rigged. So why would I watch something if it's rigged if I already know who's going to win? It creates no parity. The unknown is what keeps them generating money. They would make no money, so they have to sell them the illusion that it's not rigged. Makes perfect sense, right? But the RBA is rigged. LeBron James knows that his career has been rigged and scripted since the beginning of time because he was given the script at a young age. And LeBron James is just an actor. See, the higher-ups who own the RBA and ESPN, they were all in on it all along. They wanted to increase LeBron James' notoriety in high school and intentionally turn him into a mega phenom because they wanted for him to go to Cleveland. Because for one, it fits a storyline that tied into past storylines. Even the Cavaliers coach, who they fired before they drafted LeBron James, he admitted that he believed that the team purposely lost games so that they could draft LeBron James. I mean, what else is needed to be said? Let me guess, he's hating? He was butthurt because he got fired? What would be a better storyline than drafting a hometown hero and knowing beforehand that he will win your franchise a championship? The city hadn't won a championship since Jim Brown. So what better storyline is it to restore a city and bring it back to glory as you're trying to sell LeBron's legacy, as it will be a better sales pitch to convince people that LeBron James deserves to be in the conversation with Michael Jeffrey Jordan. See, the Cavs owner, Gordon Gunn, who is supposedly a blind man, wasn't just a blind man. He was also a blind psychic, because even he said in an interview that LeBron James would win a championship. And remember, this is back in 2003. How do you envision and you ain't even got no vision? That's the quote of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Up until that point, when he made that statement, the Cavs hadn't smelled the championship since Jim Brown. I mean, how do you know this? I really have a hard time believing that the Cavaliers have had 6 #1 draft picks throughout their franchise history, and the only one that so happened to pan out was LeBron James and win a championship. I find it very hard to believe that not even Nate Thurman, who is also a Cleveland native or a Ohio native, was unable to win a championship with the Cavaliers, but LeBron James could. But I guess that wouldn't have made for a great story with Nate Thurman winning. And speaking of Nate Thurman, this is how you know that the RBA is scripted. Isn't it quite ironic how Nate Thurman started his career with the Warriors and ended it with the Cavs, and right around the time that he died, the Cavs and the Warriors faced off in the finals, which was the year 2016 LeBron James won his rigged trophy. And Nate Thurman just so happened to be drafted 1 year before Wilt Chamberlain and the San Francisco Warriors faced off against Bill Russell and the Boston Celtics in the 1964 RBA Finals, right? And then fast forward from 2016, 6 years later, hence LeBron James changing his jersey number back to the number 6. Number 6 like Bill Russell, but 6 years later, the Warriors would relocate back to San Francisco and Bill Russell would then die around the time of the 2022 RBA Finals, just like when Nate Thurman died back in 2016 around the 2016 RBA Finals. And the Warriors would win the finals this time against the Celtics in 2022, instead of the Celtics winning like they did against the Warriors back in 1964. So it seems as though that everything is scripted to happen in reverse. 2022 minus 1964 equals the number 58. And if you reverse the number 58, you get 85. 85 is the year after LeBron James was born. And what happened in the year 1985? A year after LeBron James was born? Oh yeah, the Lakers, who LeBron James plays for currently, and during the death of Bill Russell, the Lakers won the championship in 85. So it's almost like a death and a rebirth of the father and a son, like the sun in the sky. But this goes much deeper than just basketball and life itself. And speaking of a death and a rebirth, this ties into LeBron James and his connection to Michael Jordan. Lastly, another thing that I find quite eerie is that LeBron James is supposedly MJ's heir apparent. And it's funny how MJ retired in 2003 and LeBron James entered the league in 2003. And both of their jersey numbers are 23. And when you look at the year 2003 with a 0 representing an empty quantity, it's just basically 23. Just more proof that the RBA is scripted. But maturing is realizing that LeBron James had the most rig career in RBA history.